Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you all doing? Inshallah, you're all doing well. Right, so the story is of a person who lived in Jeddah. Now, we're talking this is not too long ago, sort of recent history, I'd say about 4 or 5, no, maybe 10, 15 years ago, so not too long ago. But the person still is alive with us, mashallah, tabarakallah, to live and tell us the story. Now, this is a person who, mashallah, tabarakallah, had a long and a very strong faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had so much faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows that if he makes dua strong enough and with enough intention and sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will have his du'as answered. And so what he did was one day he just really felt frustrated. People around him are getting richer, people around him have got wealth, people around him have got jobs, people have got security, safety, stability. He, on the other hand, did not have any of that. He was just on the verge of poverty. Now he went around and he was just looking around and he realized that he doesn't have an education. He's not very well versed, it's not even business minded. He's really not into the whole chasing trends and trying to find a new deal and finding stuff. He's not really a hustler, basically. He's just very passive when it comes to actually making income. I don't know if he, like, really, not even a job. That's how no hope he had, basically. Right, so essentially one day he just sat down and he realized, you know what, I really have to go and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, He's the only one who can get me out of this. And so he went there and sat down and he prayed his rakats in the night, and then he sat there and he said, Ya Allah, help me through this. Ya Allah, dabbirni. Ya Allah, just be my guide and guide me like however way you see fit. Guide me through and to navigate this world of making money, or help me be wealthy. And at the same time, Allah, like, I have no clue what to do. Like, I am so clueless when it comes to these things. I want you to just guide me and help me. And the thing is, he said this dua so much and like so constantly. He just said it and said it and said it and said it and said it. And this is the thing, was when you're making a dua, try and emphasize it a few times until you feel within you that dua has been answered. You'll feel it. You'll feel that, yes, you feel that the dua has been answered, right? So he said, I kept making that dua until I felt that moment where, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Khalas, your dua has been answered, you can get up now. He's felt it, and that was in the first setting, right? So not long after he made that dua, he realized, very shortly after that, he was sat down in his house, and then a friend of his rang him and he said to him, what are you doing? He said, I'm fine, I'm free. I'm fine, I'm free. So he said to me, yeah, come and join me and we'll just go for a quick journey. So then he went with his friend, and then they went to a friend of theirs who has an estate agent, and he sat down. The three of them just sat there discussing and talking, and then they were just drinking tea, and then a client comes in and walks into the office, and then there he goes and asks about. So he realised that from the dialect, the dialect of that person who came in, he's from a different town. In fact, Riyadh. So they're in Jeddah. He's from Riyadh, so he came in and he was asking about a particular piece of land, which is in the books, and he gave them all the information, and they just started talking all like sort of property jargon. He said that this person saying their story, he said, I have no idea what they were talking about. Literally, they were just blabbing on something about properties, and then they just started throwing in all sorts of words in there that I just felt like, wow. And then I sat there, and then eventually, when the conversation was, as they were continuing conversation, and then suddenly the guy turned, like the main office owner, he turned back to the customer and he said to him, listen, in terms of commission, we're splitting it between the three of us, so the commission's going to be slightly higher. And the person gets, not a problem. So the commission, like generally, the commission is about 2.5% off the total sale, right? So this is just almost by law, basically. And so the guy just didn't think much of it. I just sat down. I was just a guest there, so that obviously nothing's going to happen, right? And then not long after that, our friend receives a phone call from his friend. He's saying, are you free? I'm coming over. He goes to him, yeah, come over. So when he come over, the friend gives our friend, right, a envelope, and he opens it, and there's 100,000 Saudi riyals in that bag, in that envelope. He goes, what's this for? He goes, do you remember in the day when we were in that at the estate agent? He goes, yeah, this is your commission, basically. We are going to split it 3 ways, and you're there, and we gave it, and this is your share from me. Because, but I didn't do anything. You were just there. And the guy said, it's for you being there. Who knows? Maybe you brought in the barakah. Who knows? Like, this is your share. 100,000 Saudi riyals. And divide that by 4.45 to know how much that is in pounds sterling, or divide it by 3.75 to get that in dollars, right? That's actually not much, right? And so what happened is that he looked at this money and he thought, "Whoa, this is the largest amount of money I've ever had." And then he said, "Remember, he realized that subhanallah, that's the dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is paving the way to wealth for me, and this is first payment." And so he just realized, he said, "What can I do?" So he started looking around, and then he started seeing that there was a stage, and there was a part in the history of Saudi Arabia, right? There's a time where every single person in the country, well, I say that very liberally, let's just say, okay, 99% of the people, anybody who had money back then, put their money into the stock market. The stock market was just flourishing. It was so amazing. Like, every single company flourished. Every single company was in the green. Literally, you can invest in a company dealing with cattle, right? Dealing with sheep, and it was just skyrocketing. Like, it was just crazy. Just suddenly, all these people were just throwing in the money, and so there was a high demand for stocks, and prices were inflating, right? And people were making money. Like, people made money. And then there's this very one doomsday that things have turned. But let's go back to the story, right? And so this guy just saw everybody's invested in money, and he's just like, "I've got 100,000. Like, he said, I don't know, what did I do? Did I end up investing in one company or a basket of companies? But I just did it. I just went there and I invested as much, entire amount, the whole 100,000, right?" This is a guy who, had a lot of faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to guide him through the right thing. And the second thing is, this guy just realized, you know what? It's all or nothing. And he went in and he put his 100,000 in there. And he says, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he reached 800,000 Saudi riyals. So 8 times the amount that he had made initially. Pure. Now listen, Allah chose this path for him because he knew Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needed this guy. Was not going to know what to do and how to invest it properly, like barter or hustle with that money. And so he has easy ways of getting money. So he went into the stock market, and his 100,000 turned into 800,000 Saudi riyals, right? And then he had this feeling. He said, "You know what? Let me reach the million and I'll stop and I'll pull my money out." But at the same time, something told him, pull your money out. He just felt this feeling, let him just put my money. He went out, pulled out all his money, right? He pulled it all out, 800,000. He said, within a week, the stock market, and every single Saudi person, everybody who lived in Saudi Arabia at that time will remember the date to the day, right? To the hour when the stock market went down, like completely red. Everybody was red. Just the money, people just started pulling the money out, and the prices of everything just tumbled, and people made losses. I, for one, had one person. I was sat there as a cashier in one of the restaurants, and then a person like walked in, and he comes to me and he goes, he's like not even a customer. He came and then he says, "Can I have the calculator?" And then he started pressing his buttons like this, just typing things into the calculator, and then he gives it back to me, and then he comes back and he goes, "Can I borrow it again?" And then so he's just literally, he's not even a customer. He just came in from outside, tapped on the calculator, and went back in. Could have told him to use your mobile, but you know what? Hey, the guy was in the right state, right? So he went in and he just tapped on the calculator, and then he goes, and then he turns back to me and he goes, "You know what? All these people have lost money in this market." And he just walked off. And I digress, right? But like, I saw the feeling, I saw how it affected people. Those who made money and who were able to come out of that time before then were, subhanAllah, Allah loved them, right? And those who didn't, Allah was testing them, right? Anyways, let's go back to our friend, right? And so what happened is that the week after, everybody's money's tumbled, but he was so grateful that by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had pulled out all his money, made no losses whatsoever by the grace and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you just realize that subhanAllah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding him and slowly picking him up and then just pushing him towards the right direction. And all of that from a sincere dua, a very sincere dua. And this is what I need you all to think about. Like, how can I make my dua sincere? Now, the story doesn't end there, right? And so he takes his 800,000. He goes, what am I going to do with this now? Like, I don't know what to do with it. I'm not really a hustler, basically. And so what he decided is that he went and said, people said to him, you know what? Land is the best thing to do with money. You got money? Just go and put it in land. So he went and bought plots of land worth 70,000 riyals each, like an entire plot, whatever the size is, 70,000. And you know what? Like I said, it's all or nothing with this guy. And he went in and put all his entire 800,000 into plots of land completely. And he said he waited. And then just as soon as like the stock market had plummeted, the next best thing. So people start moving on to more safer forms of investment, and that's when properties and lands just shot up back then. And he said, Wallahi al-Azim, whatever I bought for 70,000 riyals, I sold it on for 700,000 riyals each, right? Each. So he made money. Bismillah, mashallah, tabarakallah, mashallah, tabarakallah. And then he started thinking, like, what can I do? And it's subhanAllah, it's the taskhir and the tadbir from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the right people into the right path. And so one of the main du'as they should ask is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put righteous people on my path. Let me be acquainted with righteous people. Let me be acquainted with knowledgeable people. And that's what you should be thinking. That's part of your du'a. And I'll never forget this, like the importance of having righteous people along with you. It's unbelievably important, and do not underestimate the power of having good, decent people around you. They will advise you correctly and they will help you along the ways, right? So let's moving on. I digress too much, but it's really important that we just take all the lessons we can from this little story. Then he started thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this money? And then he started thinking, and then he looked at there's this one road in Jeddah that's really big. It's like quite one of those important sort of arteries of the city. And he saw a plot of land there, and he can afford that plot of land, and he bought that land. And he said, okay, I'm thinking of building a skyscraper on that. Look at where we went. We went from a guy who has nothing to him dreaming about creating a skyscraper in Jeddah, right? In Jeddah, of all cities. And he said not long after that, he was there, he'd bought the land, and then somebody came and offered him multiples of what he paid to buy the land off him. And he sold it for whatever that amount was, but he made money out of that. Bismillah, mashallah, tabarakallah, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him with whatever money he got, and may Allah give him more, inshallah ta'ala. But just goes to show that there is no doors that is locked for anybody. You just make it now. You make a very strong enough dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you it. But remember, it's when you're doing that dua, you have to be totally connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's that moment where you feel in that connection, that bond between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is conversing with you at that moment. That's the moment where you just make the dua. Zakaria alayhi salam, when he went into Maryam and he said, Anna laki hadha, where did you get this from? And huwa min indillah. He looked at it, and you're looking at things that only grow in the summer is in the winter, she's eating it in the winter, and things that only grow in the winter, she's eating it in the summer. It's just phenomenal. It's just truly miraculous. It's that appointment. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, هُنَالِكَ دَعَا زَكَرِيَّا رَبَّهُ. At that moment, that's the time when he said, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant me a child, bless me with a child. And then that's when Zakaria alayhi salam was blessed by Yahya at that moment, subhanAllah. And so it's trying to seek out those moments and those opportunities of actually being closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's those moments where you really got to capitalize on it. That moment where you're getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make the dua, make it sincere. Block out the entire world out of you, and just focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Focus on what you can do to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Things like making the dua, making the correct dua, doing salatu salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam before the dua, doing 10 times subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah before going into your dua, doing a sadaqah before you're making a dua. Just anything that you could do to get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before you make the dua. That's what I'm trying to reach out to. I hope you've all learned from this story, and I hope this story, as entertaining as it was, is a life-changing moment for any of us. do that. Do istighfar and you'll see amazing things happen for you in your life, inshallah ta'ala. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with His mercy and His forgiveness, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us every day closer to Him, inshallah ta'ala, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us get closer to Him in forms of worships, inshallah ta'ala. Until next time, like, comment on the channel, it does help the channel, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I ask from you all to make dua for me. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.